So, Neil, what's your initial reaction to your former seat going to the Liberal Democrats?
Well, it's a shock when this happens. The trouble was, it was a perfect storm. I left, and I left cleanly. I thought that would help the party hold the by-election. Helen Herford ran a good local campaign, but the national situation and the situation over the Prime Minister played so badly in the by-election that I'm afraid we lost it.
Do you have any regrets now with the Lib Dem win about standing down? Because there was a few people that said you could have probably ploughed on and weathered the storm a bit.
Yeah, I probably could have done, but I felt that it was the best thing to do. Talking to Sue and the family, it was a joint decision. So once you've made a decision, you stand, gave public announcement to our new Conservative candidate, Helen Herford, and then I stood back from the campaign. I mean, today I have been saying a little more and being quite robust in some of the interviews, but naturally the by-election is over and I feel I can have my say now. I didn't want to upset the situation with our new candidate. We've got, I've got so many friends and councillors and others in the constituency that I've worked with that I did their life more difficult. I'm also concerned that they've had a lot of hard work and it's been a bad result.
What should Boris Johnson do now, and how do the Conservatives recover after these two by-election defeats?
Yes, I mean, they're interesting by-elections, aren't they? Because you've got the Red Wall seat in the north, which really progressed Boris into power and with the big majority in 2018. So that is bad news to lose that. To lose a seat like Tiverton Honiton, I think it was about the 40th largest majority in the country. I think the Prime Minister does have to listen to it, and I have said today in various interviews that he's inclined to, and I've got a lot of time for Boris, and on the big issues on COVID and Ukraine and all of these things, he's done a good job. But he does sometimes live in a parallel universe, and he does have to face the reality that it's not just somebody else. It is him, and it's a matter of trust now. And I think what the party will have to do, and naturally I'm not a member of Parliament any longer and part of the Conservative Party group in Parliament, but they've got to work out now, is Boris the right man to take them through to the general election, or do they need a new leader? Is he a winner of votes, or is he a loser of votes? And I think that is the issue.
There was obviously the letter to the 1922 committee from the Conservative Party before this vote. Do you think they went in too soon with that, or do you think that was the perfect time for it?
I think probably on reflection, it was plenty early enough. I think whether it entirely gives Boris, the Prime Minister, a complete ride for another year, I suspect not, because I think if the concern gets too large by the time we get to the autumn, I imagine even more letters that will go in, and it had something like 150 letters go into the 1922. I don't think they would have to look at the rules, and they would have to seriously look at it again. So I think this idea that, well, let's have the vote, let's get it over and done with, and then I'm fine. Well, only if he pulls himself together, runs a government that looks like we're concerned about people's that having to pay their electricity bills, their the cost of diesel, the cost of food, those people that are struggling with and having food from food banks. All of those things we've got to deal with, and the trouble is, at the moment, the story is about the Prime Minister, and much as I like him, it's it's a bit like my good self. Once you're gone, you're gone. Somebody will replace you, and I'm afraid much as I like the Prime Minister, he will, if he's replaced, we'll find a new leader and the party will move on. No one of us is greater than the Conservative Party.
You woke up this morning with the shock election defeat for the Conservatives here. Just how much responsibility do you feel that you shoulder for that defeat here with your?
I shoulder some responsibility because it was my actions that brought about my own resignation, but I don't plead guilty to the election result because I feel that had the situation with the Prime Minister and the situation in London been okay, it would have been a reduced majority, but we would have held it. I think the Liberal Democrats targeted the Prime Minister successfully. I think they also used the fact that against me in a way that, I went cleanly. Why had the Prime Minister not done the same? And I think this was a fatal combination, and I think that is the problem.
One of the talking points from last night is that Helen Herford, the Conservative candidate, she turned up to the count. She stayed in a room for a little while, came out to the count to listen to it, and disappeared. Didn't say anything. Didn't speak to anyone. What's your take on that sort of behaviour at an election count? Not even thanking staff or congratulating her opposition.
Yeah, I mean, I'm afraid in politics and not in sort of general elections before. Well, I did in Torfaen, Pontypool and Cumbraen. I lost to a 24,000 Labour majority, but I was expected to lose that, and actually I lost with great grace. But I lost local government elections in '93 and '95, the district election, which I've been a district councillor for 12 years. So that was very difficult. People losing popularity, but you have to turn around, thank everybody, bite the bullet, and you have, we can be magnanimous in victory, but I'm afraid we have to be also magnanimous in defeat, and very difficult for Helen, because naturally, I believe, I think she was pretty certain she was going to win. I think, you see, fighting a by-election for the first time as a local candidate, you have the Prime Minister, you have all the cabinet ministers here, you are totally centre of attention, and then all of a sudden it goes horribly wrong. But it wasn't down to Helen, but like I said, I think, she does need to be, she does need to be seen out again if she wishes to continue in the role as as a prospective parliamentary candidate for TNA.
Do you think we'll be seeing much of Helen again in the future out campaigning or as part of the Conservative Party?
I'm not going to comment on that, Lewis. I think that question you need to ask Helen. I mean, I did my duty. I publicly endorsed her. I was never asked for any advice. She publicly said that she didn't ask me for any advice. That was her choice. I have taken that. I was not happy about it, but I didn't say a word. And so therefore now the decision is for Helen and not for me.
With Tiverton going from Conservatives who are in power to an opposition party, how will that change the dynamics for the constituents here?
Yeah, I mean, the Liberal Democrats are good at local politics. They are not good to the MPs, and so therefore, like I said, we can't take it for granted that we can win it back at the general election. I believe we can, and I believe we should. But we do need to take the situation seriously. We also need to have policies and look like a government that is governing. And then I think you'll find come a general election, people will make the decision then on is it the government of the day they want, and they vote then much more with the colour and not so much with the personalities. And I think that will bring Tiverton Honiton back to the Conservative fold. But if we take it for granted that Tiverton Honiton will come back to the fold without doing hard work and getting the right candidate in place, then I rather fear it could be difficult.
Of course, looking at Tiverton Honiton, it's a bit of a swan song for the constituency because it might not exist at the next election. Just how do you think that will play out in the future?
Yes, of course, it'll be two quite different constituencies. I mean, about 3/4 of it remains with Honiton, Clumpton, Axminster, Seaton, and then it combines with Sidmouth, as you know. So that is that will be very similar seat, but with Sidmouth. The other seat is much different. It's sort of Tiverton, Bampton, and West Somerset, and that one is a very rural seat and quite different. So yes, it's going to be interesting. You've also got the Member of Parliament for Devon, Simon Jupp. So it'll be interesting to see what he also does.
Putting politics aside and coming more on an individual level, obviously Richard Ford is taking your job. What would be your advice to him now heading into Parliament on Monday when he starts his new role there?
I mean, I think what he'll do, and he needs to do, is roll up his sleeve and get on with constituency matters. Naturally, his, in his acceptance address last night, I noticed he immediately called for the Prime Minister's resignation, because naturally that was what they'd fought their campaign on. But I think, what the people of Tiverton Honiton will want to see as he gets to Parliament, that he is fighting the issues on Tiverton School, the community halls, schools, the new school for Tiverton, all of these things. That's what you're judged on in the end, you see. Well, after the highlight of a by-election and all that literature that's poured through people's doors, the hundreds of thousands of pounds that have been spent on this campaign on all sides, then people will expect you to roll up your sleeves and get on with it. But don't take it for granted that he won't do that, and that's why the party needs to be aware.
Throughout this election, obviously, you've cropped up from time to time when people ask, why is there a by-election in Tiverton and Honiton? And a lot of the national papers refer to you now as the Porn MP. How are you coping with being known as the Porn MP?
I mean, I think you've got to get on with life, and I know that I worked very hard as a constituency MP, and I really like people in Tiverton Honiton, and on the whole, they really like me, and I think that was cross-party as well. And so, while I have disgraced myself, I accept that. I have taken responsibility for what I've done, and I have gone. And so now it's no point me, Lewis, sort of beating myself up every morning because life has gone on. And so what I need to do now is to use the expertise I have in my brain on the farming, the food security, the fair share, which provides food for food banks. I've worked with them, animal welfare, all of those things that I really dealt with for a long time, and they're really in my blood. I need to somehow keep going at that. I am talking to various organisations. I'm meeting one together on the 4th of July. So I'm picking up the pieces. I have blown myself to smithereens. So there are it's piecing it's putting the pieces back together. But my wife has been, a great stalwart, and she's helped me through my whole political career. So I owe it to her and the family, after my terrible mistake, is to just get on with life and get on with it. I went to the Bath and West show. I went to Axminster Platinum Tea, and I am going to the Devon County show. So I'm coming above surface, and you've got to, because there's still a lot of support out there for me, even though they think I was a very stupid man. I think they probably think I've paid a pretty high price for my particular sin.
What are you going to miss most about being a Member of Parliament, and what are you most looking forward to now you no longer have to deal with the stresses and pressures of that job?
Yeah, there's two parts I most miss. I do miss the constituency, because naturally after 12 years, from Bampton through Tiverton to Axminster to Honiton to Seaton, it's all there and it's all in your brain. So and of course so many cases you dealt with, and you sort of, as you drive by, you think, oh yeah, I dealt with that in there, didn't I? As you can imagine, over 12 years. So that I very much miss. And it's a very beautiful constituency, and I like the green countryside. I love the trees when they come out in the spring. I'm a country boy, as you well know, so I shall miss that. in Parliament, I shall miss particularly my role as chair of the EFRA Select Committee. I was probably in my little world at the peak of my game when I sort of blew myself to three. No one misses it. So, but life goes on. You pick your pieces up. So, I'm already, on the sort of positive side, I'm already beginning to sort of think, well, there's not, for 22 years, well, I had 10 years in the European Parliament, and I've had 12 years in Parliament. I have worked pretty damned hard, and so because I put I do put a lot of effort into what I do. That's what Neil Parish is. I was brought up a farmer. I've got a lot of work ethic in me, and that's what I've done. So there is part of me that says, well, the pressure's not there anymore, and so you're beginning to think, I'm going to have to develop leisure, really. I have not really done leisure, and that's going to be a new experience for me. So when I she'll go round the golf course and create absolute bedlam, but that will suit me. But I can't see me spending hours on the golf course, but we will see. I'm doing a bit more swimming, and so can't at the moment because of COVID, but I will do as soon as I test negative. So I'm losing a bit of weight. I'm going out in the sunshine. So life is not all bad. I live in a lovely area. We've got good friends around us. At times like this, you really know who your true friends are.
Well, brilliant. Thanks very much for talking to us this morning. And well, hope to see you on the golf course soon, maybe.
Who knows? Who knows? My handicap will be pretty large. If that's whichever way it is. I'm not a golfer, but we'll see.